Hi, Principal Matters listeners. Before I jump into this week's episode, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to hear the voice of one of the Principal Matters Mastermind members, Aaron Igo, who is an assistant principal at Piedmont High School in the San Francisco Bay Area. Aaron, thank you so much for the feedback you provided on why you love being a part of the Principal Matters Mastermind.
If you've ever heard the saying, surround yourself with people who make you better, that's what the mastermind does for me. Each week, I end my day with a group of extraordinary humans who make me better. They inspire me, challenge me, teach me, listen to me, and understand me. We know that to become better leaders, it starts with ourselves, and we've got to invest in ourselves. In the mastermind, we learn how together and then go do it. So if you want to become a better leader and learn how, invest in yourself and join the mastermind. It'll become your favorite part of the week.
Principal Matters Podcast, episode 224. Hi, friends. This is Will Parker, host of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast, where each week we bring you inspiring, innovative, and imaginative ideas for your own school of leadership. This week, we're talking about the power of masterminds with my guests. Welcome back, Dr. Jeff Springer. Dr. Jeff Springer is an educator of 34 years, the founder of Spring Strategies, LLC, and the Goal Team, getting others to achieve higher levels. He is a former Texas high school head football coach, a veteran of the classroom, and the former principal of Magnolia High School in Magnolia, Texas. In 2013, he was recognized as the TASSP State Principal of the Year. He is married for 38 years and has 2 children and 2 grandchildren. And Jeff, I know our guests, if they've listened to previous shows, already know you because you've been on the show already several times. And I'm just so excited to bring you back into this conversation because we're going to be talking about how much fun we've been having doing masterminds. But before I begin, I would just want to give a quick hello to you and your family because we're connecting over a holiday weekend. How are you and how's your wonderful family doing?
Oh, well, again, thanks for having me back. I love being on your show. It's been a great week. You know, I think I tell people this is my favorite holiday, Thanksgiving. And yesterday, the day after the second day, I think is my second favorite day of the year. You know, you kind of, I think we mentioned you alluded to on Boxer, which we can talk about with through our conversation, that you were kind of having the day after withdrawal, so to speak, of such a buildup, but it's kind of a recovery day and a reset day. So I love that we're doing this on Saturday morning, kind of start fresh and a great week.
It has been fun. And I think one of the members of our mastermind, because we have a mastermind Voxer where we share ideas throughout the week, called it the Thanksgiving hangover. So when you wake up from that amazing feast that you've had, but then the fun part is all the grazing that happens on day 2. So I got up this morning, Jeff, you and I were texting this morning, and I was on a short run to try to recover from all of the grazing and the Thanksgiving hangovers that we've had. Well, Principal Matters listeners, I hope you guys have had an amazing holiday too. And one of the reasons that Jeff and I are connecting for this episode is because this past semester, we have been participating together in an amazing mastermind with several members from across the U.S. And Jeff, I wanted to just unpack this week the power of masterminds, because I know that there are listeners out there who would benefit from connecting with other people on a regular basis. I was on a show recently with Jethro Jones, and he described masterminds in a way that I had not thought of before. He talked about the fact that if you go to an event or a conference, it's kind of like a meal. You know, you enjoy it. It's a one-time event, and then it's over. But a mastermind is like a family meal that you get to have every single week with people that you know and trust. and you get to build together relationships over time. And so I just wanted to jump in first of all and ask you, as someone who's participated in this mastermind and also helped facilitate it, because you've been helping create questions for our book studies, what are some of the things that you have been learning and finding value in from our mastermind?
Well, first of all, I love that. I love that vision that you said by your guest. It's really the anticipation from one mastermind to the next. It's literally, as he described, the opportunity to sit around the table, the virtual table, so to speak, with a collection of leaders across the country that bring their own flavors, so to speak, if we're keeping with the food vision theme, the feast, so to speak. And there's several courses, and it just continues to build. And every week, just when you think that you've heard every recipe out there, you hear something new, and which is like your guest described when you go to a conference. I always am looking for that one thing. It could be a 3-day conference, and you want to leave there with that one thing. The beauty of the mastermind is you get that one thing every week, that one new thing every single week.
Well, I'm going to belabor the meal analogy for a little bit, Jeff, because I really want to unpack that. And there are several things that you and I have talked about when it comes to the different courses that happen within that mastermind. And Principal Matters listeners, if you're interested in like what the format of a mastermind looks like, you can go to my website at williamdparker.com and just click on mastermind. And there's some long descriptions there of what that looks like and how we outline those meetings. But Jeff, what I'd like to do with you is just unpack some of the things that happen within a mastermind that build your own capacity as a person and a leader. And I kind of want to break these down into 4 things if we have time. And if we don't, we'll swing back for another episode. But I want to talk about community, engagement, transformation, and collegiality. So let's start with community, because these are some things that you've told me you have gained from our mastermind together. So I want to jump into community first. How is a community built through masterminding?
The professional aspect of the mastermind is so essential. Especially, I think this pandemic has amplified even a greater need for this connectivity, this community, because so many of us are isolated because of the circumstances we're all in, and to be able to connect on a regular basis and to feel as though that you're not alone, that you have this partnership that not only on a scheduled mastermind weekly, but as you alluded to, our Voxer, that is a continual conversation. It's a spontaneous conversation. We don't have to wait till Thursday. And so it's a if say it now, one of those things, or in the sharing aspect, the willingness of all participants in this family, this community, to share what they've learned. Because as a repurposed principal, I'm not in the day-to-day rigor and schedule that these administrators are bringing to the table, but to listen to each one of them share where they're at, because every geographic situation is different. Every their locality in their districts, the way they are facing they're all at different levels. And so sometimes for one, they've experienced it and it's kind of a preview for the others, to learn. And so that community is so important. It's that support from the community, that knowing that you're not alone in facing whatever it is that comes your way as a leader of your campus.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what I love too, Jeff, is how over time, especially, I think part of it is because of the content that we've been going through with Pause, Breathe, Flourish, which lends itself to really opening up about your own personal practices and habits. But in addition to the conversations you've helped facilitate in those book studies, I also feel like those connections that happen between meetings are just as powerful sometimes. People being able to just share photos of their families, updates on what's happening in their schools and in their own personal lives. And so it's just, but there's a lot of joy there. And I just feel like each time that we pull together, those relationships get deeper and you find out another level of someone's life that you didn't know before. And I'll just make sure that I think I mentioned this before, but I'll repeat it for listeners. But when we set up this mastermind, we decided to do a unique thing, which was we were taking the new book that I've written, Pause, Breathe, Flourish, Living Your Best Life as an Educator. And you offered to facilitate the book discussions on that, which has just been wonderful, Jeff. Thank you so much for your generosity and each week unpacking questions from that. Because for me, it's been such a joy having spent so much time in that content to step back and allow someone else to facilitate a conversation about it that I can also participate in without having to be the one to develop it. So I love that, the work that you've done on that, Jeff, because the way that those questions are facilitated also build community with the people that are in that room too, because each week we're learning something about each of those elements that book unpacks. What are the habits and practices that you have for your own health and nutrition? What's your spiritual journey? What are the meaningful relationships in your life? And so that's just been super powerful.
There's definitely the professional platform Mastermind provides, but as you say, the peripheral or the bonus, so to speak, is getting to know each other on a personal level, which being as you say, from one week to the next, and then filling in with our Voxer conversations, we become more intentional in that way. And which really is a model for how we should be in person with our teams and with our staff and so forth. But we don't always take the time, or do we have the time? I think this mastermind in that respect is a great model to carry into our in-person relationships.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because so much of what I think we find meaningful in the collaboration that we're doing together in those is transferable to the work that you're doing with others. And I've always said, Jeff, that I don't like to be a part of anything. I don't want to facilitate something I wouldn't want to participate in myself. And so, so that community building is such an essential foundation for good learning. So whether that's a classroom, whether that's professional learning with your staff, whether that's just long-term relationships that you're building for school and improvement, it all begins with community. Let's switch into this conversation now on engagement, because in addition to community, to be a part of a mastermind means that you're connected and you're engaging too. So let's unpack that for a minute.
Well, what I have seen in this mastermind, of course, my schedule is a little bit more flexible than many of our participants. But what I've seen and what I've heard from our participants is, because this has become such a vital part of their growth in their week, that they try to make this thing happen regardless of their busyness and their full responsibility as administrators, whether they're principal or assistant principal, whatever their role is, their leadership role is, to make this a priority of their day. And some of our mastermind members come in a little bit late, or they text before. I mean, it's become very thoughtful, because they're so engaged. They want in the process that they don't want to miss a week. And they're so engaged that even if they do miss because of their duty calls, they want the recording so they can listen to it later and glean. And so their participation level is so high that the engagement is so evident.
Well, and what I also love is just how much that mastermind facilitates additional conversations. So there have been several times where people have been logged in, we're sharing ideas, we're in the hot seat moment, we're collaborating with somebody who's trying to solve some difficulty in their own work or school planning. And then you'll find them reconnecting after the meeting for Zoom or some additional PD with one another. And so the learning just continues. And so it's just, there's so much joy for me watching what's happening in that meeting. It's not contained to just the meeting. That engagement is continuing beyond that.
It's powerful and definitely meaningful.
Well, let's talk about transformation for a minute, because, in addition to community and engagement, there are opportunities for change that happen in this. And I know we can't divulge confidentiality of the members that are in our group without their permission, but there have been several times, especially through this pandemic, where people have brought ideas to the table and others within the room can reflect with them on how they've faced those same obstacles. But it's really amazing to watch how each person is applying the lessons that they're learning in these meetings to their own school practice. Do you want to unpack that for a second?
Yeah. First of all, I just want to say we didn't do this really intentionally, but these are kind of build on each other. The community builds. You're not going to have engagement without community, and you're really not going to have transformation without engagement. So the thought process, because everybody brings different ideas to the table, transformation is sometimes a kind of a challenge or crisis in your own way of thinking. And so sometimes we come to the table with this idea of this one thought, this one way, but we hear, maybe a plethora of other options. Oh my gosh, there's more than one way to solve this issue. That becomes thought-provoking, and that, as you say, continued conversations after we log off, whether it's via other social media platforms, email, or our Voxer, the conversation continues. The transformation and the growth becomes evident because now what we originally came to the table with, we now have more tools in our toolbox because of the conversations that we've had here in these masterminds.
And it's also neat to watch how, especially during school closures and pandemics and COVID regulations, how different people apply what they're learning in their own school communities as well. And Jeff, that leads to our fourth area, which is just collegiality, because, in addition to community and engagement and transformation, now you have this professional relationship with people that really can build on the work that you're doing. How have you seen that influencing our mastermind members?
Because you sat in that chair as a principal, or an assistant principal, not many others understand that role unless you're a fellow principal or assistant principal campus leader. And so it's so great to lean on those that are doing the same job, fulfilling that same role, to associate with this family that are going to support you, but have been there and do that same job on a regular basis. Although all circumstances are not the same, they're very similar. And so that collegiality aspect is very much related to, the community as well, that support system. An opportunity really to bounce off ideas and say, hey, during the week, hey, we're here. Have you guys experienced this? How did you handle that? And that conversation, again, lends itself to that level of collegiality.
What's so powerful for me too is to think about who's represented in that room. I mean, when you pull people together, we have such a diverse group of individuals, men and women in this group that represent all kinds of different school settings that are coast to coast. I mean, we have people literally from New York from the East Coast to the West Coast. We're in California and in Oregon and New York and in Texas and in Oklahoma. And so it's such a powerful group of people to pull together and collaborate around all of these things that we hold in common, but then also all of the things that are unique from school to school too. And that collegiality provides you a group of professionals who care deeply about what's happening in your school, but also maintain confidentiality. So you're not trying to necessarily talk to a colleague that maybe you see on a daily basis. You're also not dealing with the dynamics that sometimes happen within districts where you might step on someone's toes if you complain about something or if you criticize a decision, because in this group, it's safe. You can have those conversations with people who are really, their interest is to grow themselves and to help you grow, but they're not invested in your own district. And so you can be really open about the things that you're struggling with or the directions that you want to go. Well, Jeff, I want to tell listeners a little bit about what you and I were talking about for 2021, because one of the things that I'm most excited about as we step into this new year is the possibility of opening some additional masterminds. I have been leading this mastermind now for a while. And because of the work that I do, I have this one time a week that I can pull together with people. And obviously I'll be opening that up in the new year if we have members that aren't returning and people want to apply. But you and I have been talking about the possibility of opening up an additional mastermind and you doing some coaching and leading through that mastermind as well. And so I just wanted to commend Principal Matters listeners to the work that we've been doing in this mastermind together, because in all of the years that you've had in your school experience with coaching others, with leading schools, and now in your repurposed place, you have the flexibility to do some masterminds on your own. And so Principal Matters listeners, if you're interested in a mastermind for the new year, and I would highly recommend that you consider how a mastermind can contribute to your own professional growth. And if that's something that you're interested in, please reach out. You can either email me at will@williamdparker.com, or you can go onto the website and hit the application there, and you can find a way that you can fill that out, give us information so that we can connect and follow up with you and decide if it's a good fit for the masterminds that we would be offering, with Jeff being able to facilitate and coach a new offering. So Jeff, thank you for being willing to take on another opportunity, because we want to grow these opportunities for people out there, other Principal Matters listeners who want to connect with me, but also would be willing to connect with me through a Principal Matters coach like Jeff Springer. And Jeff, I would love it if we could swing back and do an additional episode, because one of the things that you are an expert in is the area where you did your dissertation, which is on how play can influence student outcomes, even whether it's elementary or the secondary level. And I would love to just talk about how a mastermind fits into that narrative of the research that you've done on play. Is that something you'd be willing to do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love to talk about things I'm passionate about, and play is definitely one of them.
Well, as we're wrapping up this week's conversation, I just want to thank you, Jeff, for the time that you've taken this semester, because you have devoted a lot of time to helping co-facilitate the mastermind that we've been doing together and working through the book study. Also, for those of you that are interested, at the website connected2ds.org, you can find a copy of Pause, Breathe, Flourish. And I have been talking to the publishers there who've been asking for a study guide. So Jeff and I have been working on the questions that we've been doing through this mastermind to put together a study guide that we're hoping can come out in the new year as well. So just keep your eyes open for that, and I'll make sure to advertise that out on the podcast and through my newsletter. Well, Jeff Springer, thank you for connecting with me after your Thanksgiving hangover. I appreciate your leadership. Any parting words before we say goodbye this week?
Again, Will, honored to be on again with you. And I look forward to every week with this mastermind group. And, pandemic or no pandemic, masterminds, the power of masterminds is so valuable.
Well, Principal Matters listeners, thank you for listening this week, because what you do matters. We'll talk to you next time. If you'd like other free resources like this one, you can check out all my posts at williamdparker.com.